Today I'm going to talk about making this little guy. It's kind of like a doorstop. He has a little bit of weighted materials in the bottom, and he's just made out of some scraps and some wiry yarn. This particular one is McCall's M5259, but there's a lot of different animals out there that you could get, and for the most part what I'm going to talk about is just the generalities of how to make these sorts of things. Most patterns will talk about the different options, which is the same as what's on the envelope, and then this section here tells you which pieces you need for the different versions. So this is cat A and D, you need those pieces, and B and E, you need these pieces, and so forth. It'll talk a little bit about laying out to make the most of your fabric, but if you're doing it out of scraps, it doesn't matter as much. So for this little guy, you cut the body out, and then what this means is in the back there is a cut underneath this heart. And so when you sew it together, you cut this part so that you can turn it inside out. And that's how you end up stuffing it. So once you stuff it, you're going to sew it closed, and it gets covered up, so it doesn't matter. You're going to do the same thing for these feet. So the feet are right sides together, and you sew them together. And on the back, there's a cut. So this cut is where you turn it inside out, and then again you're going to put some beads, or I just use some pebbles in the bottom of it, and you turn it inside out, and then you sew that closed so it doesn't show. So this talks about how to sew it closed, and then this talks about the little the paws, and you just do a couple big stitches on this particular one. I'm not going to get into the details because a lot of these animals are, the details are a little different, but for the most part it's just how to put this together. And then placing the eyes, so I got some little googly eyes and I offset them. And then again, in this particular case, it talks about the nose. So after you attach the legs, you do the muzzle, So this little muzzle, and you turn them inside out, and then you stuff it, and then you put a little string around that to poof it out, and then you attach that. Then you work on the nose, and there's just this teeny little guy here, this little nose. And then you put the whiskers through it. And then here's the heart that you cover up the back. So you just kind of stitch that on. I hand stitched it, makes it easier. And then the tail. Now the tail's a little different. This is kind of typical of other projects. You just leave that section open. So you sew around the tail, and then you turn it inside out. And then you stuff it. And so I did that. I turned it inside out, stuffed it, and then sewed it by hand. I just did some big stitches. So that's generally how you do these guys. The next step on the pattern is the collar, and I did use the pattern because it was the right size, and I cut a collar out, turned it inside out. There's some embellishments. You can put some ruffles on it, a bow tie. But again, for the most part, I just wanted to talk about the steps, cutting the pieces out, do the body first, put the legs on, put the little muzzle guy on, some googly eyes, the nose, cover up the stitching, and then put the tail on. So pretty fun, kind of cute, and uses a lot of your scraps. So hope that helps. And again, in this case, it was McCall's M5259, but there are lots of different little critters out there that you could enjoy. I'm sure there's some puppies out there. I'll have to look for that. All right, enjoy.